Hey, Craig.
What, Jason?
Dude, who do we have today?
Holy moly. We've got Farming Millions with top farmers agent Dan Kitajima and his secret steps to blowing past 8,000 policies.
Well, let's step it up and get into it, buddy.
Let's do it.
Boom.
Boom.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
So, Dan, I found you through Instagram. We have our the Insurance Dudes podcast Instagram, and I've done a lot of tags, and they've then it finds people, and somehow put us where I'm just seeing we see your stuff all the time, and so that's what really caught my eye. I mean, you have all those staff members working for you that girls that are constantly posting their pictures, which I thought was really just awesome. So you're doing that, or they're doing that, or how did you create this culture of utilizing Instagram? And I mean, it really is generating awareness. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's really the point, right? Try to get awareness so people can see what we're doing. It's all about transparency right now. But in the beginning, I just did it myself. So, I was the one taking pictures and very amateur stuff. But, seeing what got more responses, and still it's a work in progress. But just about 6 months ago, because finally I felt like I got a feel of it, and I wanted to really learn it myself. I didn't just want to hand it over to somebody from the very beginning. So once I got the hang of it, and then I actually looked for more professional help. So an in-staff person who went to school for photography, videography, and that's been a game changer because the quality of the pictures are a lot better than mine. And then there's a little bit more thought into it. And also, because of my scheduling, sometimes, I wish I could do social media all day long. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun and coming up with ideas. I like that side of it, the business. But having help and is helping us stay more consistent right now.
That's awesome. So Dan, for somebody that doesn't know who you are, we talk to a lot of Allstate agents. There's a lot of people that listen to this that are kind of outside maybe the farmer's world. Can you tell us about your background, how you got into insurance and everything?
Yeah, sure. I've always been a sales guy, selling sneakers while going to college in Long Beach. And then afterwards, there was a job fair at school, and it just happened to be AAA, and it's a corporate job. It's a sales position, and it was like a call center. It was all commission, which I wanted, and I was there for 3 years. They licensed me there, they trained me there how to sell insurance over the phone.
Is that at the DSU on Harbor?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I worked there for let's say around 6 months before I got fired, but that's a different story. What years?
2004 to 2007.
2004?
Mm-hmm.
We were there at the same time.
Are you kidding me?
That's so funny. Do you know Nick Arhanis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick.
Wow.
Nick brought me in.
Oh, really?
Small world.
Yeah. He's a fun guy to party with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah,
we still
roommate at that time.
I still I keep in touch with him, but we're Facebook friends. So yeah, great guy. But it was a good experience, but I did learn kind of off the subject here, but how not to treat employees there.
There you go.
The culture,
Those are the best lessons.
Yeah, the culture is so important. But regardless, I learned how to sell. I was there for 3 years. And then, had an entrepreneurial spirit. So started a farmer's agency.
Cool. And how did you really get that going? So talk about the size of the agency you have now and kind of how you got there.
Yeah, it's just, nickel and diming every step of the way. There was no shortcuts. But right now, farmers, I've been listening to your guys' podcast. You guys have a lot of good stuff, learning from a lot of big agents. So a lot of the discussions when it comes to size of I need to look it up, but farmers amongst each other, we don't really talk about like book of business size, like in premium. I don't know.
Mm.
We always like compare like PIF, which is policy in force. I want to look up my premium so you guys can have a big sense, but policies in force is about 8,000 right now, a little over 8,000.
Wow.
That's big.
It's been just I've only bought 70 of them, so it's just organically just growing it, and blessed to still be growing still at this point with all the challenges I'm sure every agency owner has.
And farmers has some, so in our market right now, farmers has some big challenges with auto, right?
Yeah.
How do you take that on? Like, and when I say by big challenges, I mean like you guys are right now probably the most expensive in auto. To see you thriving like you are is awesome. But like, how do you handle that?
Well, we try not to really think about it. So the fact that we're high in premium, I try not to let my producers know about that. Like we don't even think about the pricing as an issue, because I know a lot of agents could get into that, mindset of, oh, the price is too high, we can't sell it. So I try to almost like brainwash ourselves, saying that, hey, our price is fair, our price is good, and then it's just comes down to just generating enough marketing to have enough sales, really, because with certain situations, even though the pricing isn't everything, we'll be in a situation where our rating is fair. People do value having a personal agent, so as long as our quoting numbers are up, eventually we're gonna run into sales, and it's a skill game too. And the price is high. I think the skill of the agents really determines the closing ratio. So there's a lot of sales training that we do here, and we regardless of what the price is, I feel like our abilities could overcome those challenges.
I agree. We always tell our sales agents too, it's like, if we were the cheapest, you don't really need sales agents, right? They can sign up online. Like, I'll just put a link, sign up because we're the cheapest.
And we wouldn't be paid as much as we would be because we wouldn't be valued.
Walk us through that training. Like, what do you do on a daily basis or a weekly basis, or how often do you meet? Because we get questions like that all the time. Like, just how do you do it? How?
Yeah, the training. Well, I think what's really helped us is our weekly book reviews, and we put that on our on live on Instagram, and so actually on my YouTube channel too. I put the whole thing on there. So, big believer of just getting the group together, even though it's sacrificing some time off, they're not making calls or anything like that. But for an hour a week, everybody reads a chapter of the same book. Right now, we're reading the Sell and Be Sold book by Grant Cardone.
Oh, cool.
So,
wow, okay.
Everybody will read that book, the chapter we're on, and then share a paragraph or two that they liked, and then talk about how it applies to what we do. So it just gets us in the mindset of, okay, what it takes to be a sales professional, because it is a big difference between a sales pro and being an amateur. And really would like staff to get involved in taking their time to learn on themselves, like reading sales book and watch YouTube videos about sales. But that might be a little bit of high expectation. So we do it in-house, taking the time out of our job, our work hours, and dedicating some time. And then also watching, sales, there's some tactical things, but also there's a lot of mindset things going on too. That's just straight motivation, So having a very, performance incentives, compensation plan helps. And then just be motivated and watching YouTube videos. There's so much good content out there, that you could share with your staff, and get together and talk about, and be positive influence to each other. I think that has really helped, and has made a difference for the last year or two.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is awesome. What about specific processes? Because the large agencies, they can't be run unless you have processes put in place, right? What specific processes have you implemented in your agency that have really helped take you to this next level? And 8,000 policies is a lot.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, everybody has kind of like their own duties. Okay, so everybody, one person's working on a pending cancellation list, another person's working on a renewal list, another person, and then it's all on Google Docs, so it's shareable, so I can see, what the activity there is. Some agents are a little bit more responsible for sales, and others are more responsible for customer service. So the processes, I kind of, when it comes to the sales process, I kind of leave them on their own a little bit. They organize their own leads. They make their judgment call when to follow up with them. So we have systems, but I give a lot of leniency to have the producers choose what they want to do when it comes to how to try to get sales. But when it comes to customer service, who picks up the call, which leads get transferred to which agents. So we do have processes, monthly, priority lists where certain agents will get more leads than others because of past performances. So we definitely have a lot of processes. Yeah, they're really important. And having systems too is very important, because once you have a good system or process, like you said, that's a great question, Greg, because then you can scale it. You don't have to. I think another one of our processes I could share with you guys is how we hire and recruit too, because we have people who start with no experience, and they start off with administrative, clerical work. Then they get into customer service, then they get licensed, then they become sales agents, and then so that's a whole process too of the career path. So that's a big process I believe in, is having not taking any shortcuts and having them go through the process of becoming a productive sales producer in the future.
And that's specifically laid out, so every single time it's that same.
Yeah, unless they come with some experience, but that's hard to find these days. I mean, you might get lucky and find somebody with experience, but with the market the way it is, and just when it comes to affordability of finding recruiting people, a lot of times you're finding people, retail or restaurant experience. But if somebody has a good attitude and good work activity, then they could definitely make it in this business. So that process is definitely laid out, and it's important because it not only does it take a lot of patience from the agency owner, it takes some patience on their end too. So they need to understand that, hey, it's going to be a long journey, and there's going to be some processes we're going to go through. So it all depends on that person's ability and how fast they learn, but that process is pretty much laid out from the interview process.
How do you continually hire? Are you continually hiring? Are you always looking for someone?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that's, like you said, continually, because I just want to grow a bigger agency, and without people, you just can't grow. You're so limited to what one person could do. So, and I've learned that you really have to go through so many people to find the right candidate that fits. So that's a big part of my job, is to go through people and to find somebody that's worth your time and your money to train. So I just have it on the whole time, as far as when it comes to recruiting campaigns.
How do you assess whether or not somebody would be a good candidate or not?
Great question. It's just really looking at attitude, because you can influence them the right way, but a lot of times when it comes to attitude, they're kind of the way they are. When it comes to how confident they are, how positive they are about outlook and just life in general, and then work ethic too. And that's really hard to find. I mean, that's hard to gauge in an interview, but the attitude you can. The attitude part, you can just kind of even tell by how they email, because I do a lot of email back and forth when I'm recruiting, to see, if they have some excitement or energy in the way they even write an email or how professional they can write an email. So you can tell a lot by just, screening them through emails and then phone conversations. You just need a little bit of personality, or just don't want anyone, boring when it comes to insurance sales, I would say. but someone with a little bit of personality, interesting, sense of humor is great. So those basics, human encouragement, likability, those are the type of things I look for rather than like experience because I don't know about you guys, but it's hard to find people that's ready to like sell the first day.
Yeah, truth.
Right. Yeah, there's a long ramp up time in all state agencies, and I would suppose that in all different agencies, not just all states, at the farmers, at the state farm, at in the independents, it's the same challenge, right? Because there's such a steep learning curve to understanding the systems, understanding how to sell insurance, because they come in with that commodity mindset, right?
Yeah.
And you have to unwind that.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing you're selling. And that's why I think, a lot of us talk about, client retention, but employee retention is also a big factor because it's a big, like you said, a long ramp up time. You hate to be doing that over and over again. It's just not an efficient way to grow a business. So that's why finding the right person at the beginning is important, and then having them have the long-term mindset so they can stick it out until they get good is also, I think, key to growing an agency too.
You'd mentioned marketing earlier. So what are you doing right now for marketing? What's working for you? Because I mean, you've been doing this for a while. So how has things changed in that sense over the last few years?
Yeah, sure. When I first started, it was all about internet leads. Okay, so that, I was working in the call center. I just wanted to get busy, so I just bought leads. I made that financial commitment to, stay busy, and it was really a long term. It was something that really my call center background really helped out. Calling people, closing them over the phone, and then and which we still do, but over time it has shifted a little bit more to social media. So social media has been a um, great discovery for us. Whereas, again, we get awareness, and then not just organic, but the ads is a huge, um, and the pricing of it has gone up, but I still think it's a better investment than internet leads at this point right now. But really, you know, a bulk of our marketing, and then getting referrals and cross selling and just the basic agency activities that you need to do to grow our agency. But yeah, running ads on social media is for recruiting and for marketing has been basically what I've been spending a lot of time on learning and practicing and getting better at.
I notice on your social media, you're always doing, I always see the team like around the table and stuff like that. Talk to us a little bit about what does your day look like? Like, how do you have that like a schedule every day that you at this time do this, at this time do this, at this time we have this meeting? How does that look?
Yeah, well, a weekly book review is usually on like a Thursday at around 11:30 a.m. That seems to be like the slowest time for us. And then a YouTube video once a week. And then we don't we want to have more meetings, but it's just, the phones are ringing. It's just a fine line between like, should have more meetings. And when I was a, sales agent, I hated meetings. So I don't want to take too much time away from, them trying to close business. But
Yeah.
email every morning, stats, and I try to put something motivational in written word in the email there. So that's daily. But yeah, most of my time is spent on motivating, recruiting, and training, to be honest with you, because that's something that I don't know. I don't know how other agents do it. I wish it was an easier way, but I'm not in my office. I'm out in the cubicles, where the open area, I should say. And the people that are literally right next to me are the newest people. So newest people, just to develop good habits and just to train them how to do just even the basic customer service things, I have to be like right there, like where they get, just turn their head and ask a question. So I'm like the customer service manager almost. Those agents are all, they're like self-motivated and they're on commissions. They're, I could and then they've been with me the longest, so they kind of know what they're doing. So a bulk of my day is training.
Mm. That's a common theme, man. We hear it from a lot of agents right now. It's recruit, train, motivate,
Retain.
and then what we heard from Tolga is make it rain.
Make it rain.
You got to give them the leads,
Yeah. I look at it. My job is to get the phones ringing. Like that's my job. Is to like make sure they have enough activity. And I tell them, hey, my job is to give you guys opportunity. Your guys' job is to take, to make the best out of it. So I feel like that's my responsibility, my obligation to give them a chance to at least make something out of this industry.
What is just a golden nugget of information that you could give insurance agents that might be struggling, or just, I don't know, that might not have the scale or skills that you've learned over the years? Because you started from nothing and you built this huge agency without a lot of, some agents buy agencies or whatever, but I mean, you grinded it out. Like what's give us some nugget that some agents can take and that might be actionable.
Yeah, I would say be patient, have a long-term approach. I think that's one thing that I think a lot of new agents may struggle with, because this game is really a long-term game. What you do right now isn't going to help your next paycheck. What you're doing right now is helping out your next year's paycheck or the year after that sometimes. And then the second, I would maybe the nugget might be to just don't be afraid to spend the money. I think that's another differentiating factor when it comes to how fast or how successful agencies grow. Is some agents will just when it comes to marketing, got to spend money. When it first came to buying leads, when you hire somebody, that you're definitely spending money there too. So those two things, I think I've seen from looking at others and from my experience, is just basically the more money you spend, even though it's not good right now because the return isn't immediate, making that sacrifice for your future income is, and having that delayed gratification outlook is one of the things that I think agents could struggle with, understandably too, because everybody wants to make the big bucks right away, but
right.
There's just no way to do that. I wish there was a way, but it's kind of like when you buy a business, you pay the money, and then the cash flow starts coming in. So when you're building an agency from scratch, it's kind of the same thing. You're spending the money, so you make money later. So I think just the willingness to spend money, it helps if you're a little bit of a gambler, and take risks. And sometimes I really appreciate you guys saying the size of the book of business, but I made some bad moves even recently. There's some months where I actually the P&L is not looking great. It's going the wrong way. But that helps me stay hungry. But the payoff sometimes is big too. So kind of depends on your risk tolerance. But I would encourage agents to depending on if they want to have a big agency, because that's a choice too, because some agents are comfortable. So just self-awareness, risk tolerance. But if you are trying to build something big, then you got to take some risk and you got to spend the money.
And
Makes
test,
sense.
right? Constantly test and see what works and not be afraid of that.
Exactly. Yeah, not being afraid of losing, not afraid to lose money. Because sometimes it's almost like you have the expectation of like, hey, the first $1,000 of leads I want to buy, I'm probably just going to blow. It's going to be a learning experience, and I'm going to get better. The script's going to get better. My template's going to get better. So you're almost spending money to learn at times. But that's if you're expecting for every risk you take to work out, then you're going to take less of them. You're going to be too careful, and sometimes I need to be a little bit more careful. But trying different things is, I think, the best way to learn.
Well, human nature sort of dictates that we that we want this instant gratification, right? Like you said, we buy the leads, they don't work in the first week, and we're like, these leads suck, and then we get rid of them. Now we've blown $2,000 and we're pissed. But really, if we had ridden it out for 2-3 months, likely it would be a little bit different result, right? Because you start getting results from anything as long as you continue that consistent activity. And that leads to this question of metrics. Like what specific metrics do you look at when, on a monthly basis, really to make judgments on where to move the business and where to go?
I just look at, the top line revenue, how much I'm spending. So I look at the big picture stuff. I really need to be a little bit more detail oriented. I don't look at ROI as much, because there's so much like intangible when it comes to getting a sale. It's just not this year, it's next year. They may send us a referral. They may, get another line of business later. So even though I'm Asian, I'm not that much of a numbers guy. I should go into the details a little bit more, but I just look at the big picture stuff. I just see, hey, how much are we selling? How much am I spending on marketing? Who produced what? But I will say that's actually a vulnerability of mine. I got to look at a little bit more on the retention side, a little bit more of I'm just so focused on just growing and selling and policies. But I recommend agents to spend a little bit more time on that. But I don't know why my mind is always into like, okay, what kind of marketing campaign can I do? What kind of how can I make the best out of the marketing dollars I'm spending? So when it comes to metrics, I'm looking at more how much marketing dollars, how many leads it's producing. That's like the main one. And then obviously you got to be careful about how much revenue you're bringing in versus what you're spending. So those are the main metrics we'll keep an eye on.
Well, so you keep it high level, and that's interesting, And then you have Jason, who he knows the cost for acquisition of each policy that comes in from the lead. He'll know. So it's real interesting. But as long as you're getting the result, then there isn't necessarily the perfect way to do it, right? If you're doing it the way in which you're happy, right? You're happy doing it, tracking it the way you are, and to be doing the things you are, focusing on the marketing and focusing on training the people to be them better selves, right? Or to be their better selves. And that's what it's really all about. If you're over here doing the stuff that you hate, then it's not a fun job, right? And why are you doing it?
Yeah, exactly. It's tough to make this job fun, but once you do it, it makes it a lot. And I'm actually, one of the things I'm proud about is like, I was able to make this job fun. I enjoy coming to work every day. So that is a key factor of, growing a business is, how to make it fun. That's just
part of success, right? Yeah, that's true. Like, I think that's a huge part of success right there is if you can make it fun. Like we're here at work all the time. You got to find where you want to focus on and really make a situation that's good for you. Because if you're happy, everybody else is going to be happy. But if you're not, it's like,
no, yeah. And the same thing with the employees. I always think like, hey, if your employees are, if you have unhappy CSRs, you're gonna have unhappy clients. So
yeah,
trying to have a culture of just, you gotta get the job done too, but having a culture of positivity and enjoying what we do is, it is one of my biggest jobs.
I'll go back to that metrics point. Like, I really like the system shows me where our metrics are. I should probably be watching it on a daily basis. It's more like a weekly. I check in here and there just to make sure because it does fluctuate. I'm a little bit more reckless on that. I could be totally wrong on this, but I think where like my mind is right now is that it's kind of like yours, Dan. It's like you got to make these big moves. You got to like pull yourself up high and look down on the situation and who cares about like little losses? You know what I mean? Because if you're focused down here, you're never going to be able to get out there. It's kind of like a watchtower, right? You got to be up on that watchtower to see out how to get to that goal that you want to go at. And you're going to screw up, like, especially right now, if you're making those big moves, you get big scrapes and big bruises. So I think that's, I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but I mean, at least for me, that resonates with me because that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like trying to make these big moves and it's like, oh, I lost 10 grand. Oh, I lost 25 grand. It's like, I learned a ton, a ton doing it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you learn a lot. And I think you're absolutely right, Jason, because sometimes when you look in the details a little too much, you get a little risk averse. So when you think, okay, when I hire somebody, pay this much per hour, how much am I getting that hour? It may look like it may not make sense, but there's just so many intangibles there and the long-term payoff too of what a person could bring or even what a lead could bring because, you look at the numbers and you say, hey, I buy a lead, I pay a producer, pay them hourly, I pay them the commission. Like, wow, I lost money from getting the sale. So the metric sometimes doesn't look good, but it's so impossible to tell how many years they're going to renew. Premium increases. They buy a house later. They get married, add a spouse later. It's just impossible to get the full value. So I think I made to be a more of an extreme, but it's almost like blind faith. I'm just going to spend money, see what happens, and over time, experience gives you more confidence. Hey, this is working. Like, hey, the more I spend, it does actually work. So looking at it a little bit too closely may make an agent feel a little too scared to spend the money.
Yeah, I agree. So, any other nuggets that you want to tell anybody, or maybe a question that we didn't ask that maybe we should have?
No, I kind of want to interested in how you guys are doing. Actually, this is a great idea. Great value. I listened to you guys' stuff. The Tyler Harris one was great. I mean, just
that was awesome.
I think for insurance agents, is sometimes we're in our own bubble, and we don't get to see, especially from other companies, like what other agents are doing, and really, it's great idea you guys have of just trying to learn from each other. So, have you guys seen as far as like, patterns or anything that nuggets that I want to learn from you guys because you guys have been talking to agents now with all the episodes you guys have.
You start, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, this will carry over from the previous conversation. What this show and or this podcast and what it's done for us is give us access to people that I don't think would have picked up the phone if we didn't have this. And as we get each more powerhouse guest, like we have, I think there's two different avenues that we go through. We talk to agents and then we talk to marketers who have broken either out of the insurance agency space or are doing both, and it's a side hustle. But one of them that we were just on with was talking about the value of the mentor. And I think that each one of these people that we talk to is a new relationship that we've now established and are a mentor in sorts, not only to us, but to all the listeners, right? Like you, Dan, have picked up, hey, Tyler Harris. I mean, I didn't know who Tyler Harris was until Jason found him, brought him, and then I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, what the heck? How did I not know this guy? Right? But that's how big this world is. And there's so many people that can add value. And as we take and, extract each of these little details from it, it really is impacting, my growth as a human and as a business owner. And I know it's doing, I feel like it's doing the same for Jason as well.
Yeah. And I'll be like, I'll be selfish on this one. Like, it's literally, I look at it like this. It's going to help other people, but dude, it's going to help me. Like every conversation that we've gotten into with a new person, new industry, or anything, it's like I learned so much from it. I love podcasts. I love I love mentorship. I look at it like we have access to all these people now. So I'm constantly trying to get nuggets from people. So doing this podcast has been so cool to learn from everybody that we've learned from, and kind of just it really elevates us to the next level.
Well, and as
Yeah.
we're working on them, like we're chopping it up and we're going through, the audio or the video or whatever. Like I listen to some episodes so many times, and
Yeah.
and each time I'm like, wow, I didn't even catch that. It's something else. Like what, it's just been a blessing to be able to speak with
And
you like you did.
it takes a lot out of our day. Like it takes a lot out of our day. It takes a lot to edit this stuff. I mean, eventually we're going to get somebody else to edit it, because it's just, I mean, it's really taking a lot of our time, but I think there's a lot of value. Kind of like one of the things, so your specific question, one of the things that I've noticed consistently with agents is that the really successful agents do the process that you just said: hire, train, retain, and make sure your agents are like happy and have enough leads to close.
Make it rain.
And and they focus kind of in those areas. So it's cool to see those common threads of A, successful people, but B, successful agents, and kind of how what they look like, almost looking through their eyes, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think the biggest difference is some insurance agents are just, focused on the next sale.
Mm,
Other ones are looking for the next hire. And I think how that makes a difference in the business is so different that I think the business ownership mentality is really what makes the difference. But yeah, which one are the best episodes in your guys' mind? Because I want to listen to them all, but I kind of want to start off with the best ones.
oof.
Uh, any memorable ones? Put you guys on the
We
spot.
could go if we went by the metrics. The leads episode has the most listens. It's
Okay.
a little bit over 500.
Okay.
What
Well,
was the Austin Moorhead episode? I mean, I don't want to make anybody else feel bad by not picking them.
I know.
We're at 30. But I mean, Austin Moorhead's was just a heater. I mean, that one's awesome. That is fairly recent and is the second, like metrics wise, has the second most listens. So
okay.
and we are now listened to on every continent.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a listener in Uzbekistan as well.
Oh, nice.
I
Well,
love
for-
the with that has anything to do with automation and marketing. Marketing is like my passion. So I love any of those ones. I and there's a lot of good ones, I think. We just interviewed today Trey Llewellyn. He had one of the highest selling funnels in ClickFunnels history. And
Okay.
and he used to be an insurance agent, and he's done some really cool things e-commerce wise and stuff. So just, I love people's stories. So that'll be a really cool one. Bobby Stocks, another
Oh
recent
yeah,
one.
Bobby Stocks and that one just dropped last week.
I love the outside of the box stuff. Like we all know, especially being captive agents, you hear all the same stuff. Go door knocking. This is my problem when I first got into the industry. They start telling you go door knocking, do barbecues, just all this stuff, and it's like, dude, what world are you guys living in that this
Cold
makes?
call.
Yeah, cold call people. Yeah, it's just there's so much leverage that we can use. So that was another inspiration for this, was just like, who's using some stuff outside the box? Like, we can't all be we're in the reddest of red oceans, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's there's a farmer's agent in my building below me. There's a State Farm agent like 10 doors down in this building. It's like, dude, it's a dime a dozen, right? So we got to figure out some leverage.
And we make such a micro amount off of each transaction, right? It's not like a realtor or a loan officer where you're making tens of thousands of dollars on each transaction. So not only do we make a micro amount, like let's take a renter's policy where you're making $8 for the year,
Yeah.
and
They cancel it out.
then you're paying them and the lights and all the other stuff, and so you're in the hole, right? So if you're door knocking to get that renter's policy, you're effectively working for free. So we have to create that leverage, and that is, to Jason's point, some of the reason behind this is to find that automation, find how can we leverage our time so that we don't have to do those things and drive the maximum results.
Yeah, it is such a nickel and dime business that we have to make it up with the volume and the efficiency. So, and I do think the industry as a whole is a little bit, a little spoiled in a way where we make renewals. So some of the established agents are not having to innovate. You can get comfortable, and that's totally okay because the hard work is supposed to pay off. But for those that are hungry, I do feel the outside of the box thinking is a little behind compared to other industries. So
Is the understatement of the
a little behind.
I'm glad you guys agree. So what you guys are bringing to the table, because when you're a new agent, you talk to the older agents. Hey, how did you become so successful? Maybe how they became successful doesn't imply in today's world. How
almost,
they agencies.
yeah, and I would even go to say it's the principles that is the nuggets of information from them that's super successful, but
Right.
the actions are completely gone, like even from 10 years ago. So yeah, I mean, we're all trying to struggle, or we're not struggling, but we're trying to figure out like what's the path of least resistance, right? At least in 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how to market in today's world.
Yeah.
So to bring the awareness and to help other agents with how technology, automation, like you guys said, and trying to figure out something that really works and get to think about what works and share what's working is a great value and something that our industry definitely needs.
Yeah, I agree. My number one goal, and I said this since I got here, is my number one goal is to have our agents doing nothing but talking to people. So at every little stupid task, I want to erase. If that part can be automated, because you can't automate humans. Like that human interaction, that rapport building, you can't automate that. Like that's real, and that's what we need to be doing, focusing on. Everything else we should not be doing. It's a waste of time, I think.
Yeah.
In today's world, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's my goal.
Well, cool. Why don't we wrap it?
All right.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Put a bow on it.
Okay.
Definitely
Well,
a bow.
Thank you guys for having me on here.
Dan, thank you so much. It's been awesome. You bring a lot of insight and value from the farmer's perspective, and
Yeah.
Anybody who how can somebody follow you on Instagram? Because I think that your marketing is very unique, and I haven't seen
It's really good.
like the Instagram marketing.
Thank you. Yeah, credit to my team. So it's Kitajima. This is my last name. Kitajima Insurance is basically the handle. My personal one is Dan Kitajima, but yeah, that's where I'm mostly on Instagram, and then we started a YouTube channel. So yeah, and Facebook too. So that's where you guys could find us. But really appreciate you guys having me on. This was the first podcast.
Cool.
Hopefully, I was able to help some agents out there. But
For sure,
all about
absolutely.
Agents helping agents. So I really respect and give a lot of gratitude for what you guys are doing for us.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Same with you. Hey, we gotta catch up sometime because we're way too, and we know too many of the same people to not.
Yeah, you can tell me your story about how you got fired.
Yeah.
55% of insurance sales producers say that they have had little or no sales training. Us agents focus on marketing to drive activity and often overlook the sales presentation. Improvements in mindset, shifting focus, rapport, needs diagnosis, value building, creating buy-in, and overcoming objections lead to drastically better closing numbers. The solution? Enroll your team in September's Sales Summit offered by Agency Vault. We will even assess your team to see which of their sales steps need the most improvement. Head to agencyvault.com to sign up before it's full.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really